Good morning to all of my newsletter subscribers and anyone else who may be watching this video on YouTube. Peter Dew's my name, and I want to talk to you about, in public speaking, when you're running a workshop, the importance to silence that internal critic. The little person who sits on your shoulder and whispers in your ear during a presentation or after a presentation, or sometimes even before a presentation. So important that we learn to silence that self-critic. I'm not saying that feedback is not important and that we shouldn't learn and grow and change, but our internal dialogue, our self-assessment, is often not correct. So here's the truth. If you think that you've done a really great presentation, you've covered off all your points, you've engaged the audience, you haven't had any ums and ahs, you've really been in the groove and you've absolutely nailed your presentation. If that's what your internal critic says, and the audience thinks the presentation was terrible, irrelevant, shocking, then you have bombed your presentation. So despite your internal critic saying, "Good job, Peter," the audience is saying, "You've missed the mark. You were so far away from what we expected. That's not what we wanted. That's not what we needed." Let's go the flip side. You've now done the worst presentation of your life. You've been really nervous, your face has turned red, you've had a quiver in your voice, you've forgotten half your points, you wanted to mention something else and completely forgot it. And the internal critic saying how bad that was. And your audience absolutely loved your content. They loved you. They wish they'd heard from you 6 months earlier, because what you've given them has been so valuable, so transformational in their lives, that they love you. If that is the instance, then you have nailed your presentation. So the reality is, you don't get to determine whether you have done a good presentation or a bad presentation. So to listen to that little critic talk about what you could have done, what you should have, what could have been, it is of no value. What I do to silence that internal critic is I go on stage, I run a workshop, I do a facilitation, and I do the best that I can. That's all I can do. I can't do any more than the best. And then I cut it loose. I let it go. But I have feedback forms, and I welcome feedback into my life and into my presentation styles. And every now and then, the audience will give me some valuable tips that I was unaware of. That will enable me to enhance, change, improve my presentation. But I've got to silence this little internal critic. So my tip for you is, next time you present, allow the feedback to give you the indication of how well you've done, what you could change, what needs improving, rather than your internal critic. Your internal critic could be, and probably is, wrong. Learn to silence that internal critic.